Alright guys, welcome back or welcome to Running for Views. Today we're going to be talking about Kilian Jornet's best races of all time. So if you've been following my channel, you know that I am Kilian obsessed. He's the greatest runner of all time, so how can you not be? Kilian has raced hundreds of races, probably more than any other trail runner on the entire planet. So just choosing his best races was difficult to say the least. But out of the hundreds of races that Kilian has done, I narrowed it down to the top 10 races that he has ever done. His best 10 races. So today we are going to be covering number 10 through 5 of Kilian's best races. Because I really want to give you guys an in-depth look at each race that he's done and why it's one of his best races. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before that, make sure that you subscribe. Thank you. Number 10. 2008 UTMB. Now this was Kilian's first 100-mile race that he had ever done. The race was still relatively new, only 5 years old, when Kilian came and crushed the competition, surprising everyone. The race directors didn't even confirm that he won the race until the morning after he finished, because they thought there was no possible way that what he did was possible. So a quick overview of UTMB. This is a 100-mile trail race with over 32,800 feet of climbing during the race. It starts in the beautiful mountain town of Chamonix and circles around Mont Blanc, which is the largest mountain in Europe. It passes through France, Italy, and Switzerland before finally finishing in Chamonix in France. Now what made this finish so unbelievable to the race directors is that before Kilian won this race, it had been mostly 35 to 55-year-old people who were winning UTMB. And Kilian was just a 20-year-old boy. Ultra running was supposed to be an old man's sport, not for the youngins. And he won the race by over an hour. He literally came out of nowhere. No one had heard of him before and led the race the entire day. He did get a 15-minute penalty during this race because he received help outside of an aid station. But what the race directors really didn't like is that he didn't carry a backpack during the race. He was able to fit all of his mandatory gear into a fanny pack. And here's how he was able to do that. His survival blanket was a 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter square. His windbreaker was child size. He'd removed the zipper and seams from his windbreaker. He didn't have a backpack, but a fanny pack with a water bladder under his t-shirt. And he had taken mini gas station gloves and not warm gloves, as the regulations only mentioned mandatory gloves. It was indicated that water reserves were compulsory, but it did not specify that the bottles had to be filled. So Kilian emptied it and was content to drink at just the aid stations. Kilian also used the Salomon Speedcross 1, which was not an ultra shoe and weighed in at only 250 grams compared to the 450-gram ultra running shoes that everyone else was wearing that day. But the thing was, the race directors didn't have any penalties or rules saying that Kilian couldn't do what he did. So technically, he had all the mandatory gear, so there was nothing they could do. His final time for this race was 20 hours and 57 minutes, which is just incredible since this was his first 100-mile race. Number 9, 2021 Ultra Pyreneu. Now this race is one of the biggest races in Spain and one race that Kilian really loves. Kilian is from Catalonia, Spain, so this race is really important to him. The start of this race is just a 1-hour drive from his childhood home, which is a mountain hut in the Pyrenees. This race is 100 kilometers long, has 21,700 feet of elevation gain, and is very technical. And if you've ever been to the Pyrenees, you know how steep and technical these mountains can be. The race has changed its course so many times over the years that keeping track of course records is very difficult. When Kilian won this race for the first time in 2012, the race was only 50 miles long. In 2015, when he won the race a second time, the course was 109 kilometers long. And then when he won for a third time in 2021, the race was 100 kilometers long. And this is the current course record at 10 hours and 25 minutes. Number 8. 2017 Hard Rock 100. In 2017, Kilian had already won Hard Rock 3 times. That's right, 2014, 15, and 16. So when he went back in 2017, he was the clear favorite. However, this finish at Hard Rock 100 would turn out to be a lot different than his other finishes. Hard Rock 100 is a 100-mile mountain ultra that starts and finishes in Silverton, Colorado. It has 33,200 feet of elevation gain and has an average elevation of 11,000 feet above sea level, with the highest point of the course being 14,048 feet above sea level. In 2014, when he first ran this race, he broke the clockwise course record. In 2015, he went back and broke the counterclockwise course record. In 2016, he won in a tie with Jason Schlarb, but no course record that year. Now let's talk about what happened in the 2017 Hard Rock 100. The race started out normally with Kilian setting the pace with co-race leader Caroline Chevreau, which is a story for another video because she is incredible. 14 miles into the race, disaster struck when he, quote, dropped through a steep snowpatch off of Buffalo Boy Ridge and into Maggie Gulch and took a head-over-heel fall, actually a couple times. Punched through the snow and into the rocks and rolled. When he stopped rolling, he said that he knew that he had dislocated his shoulder. So what did Kilian do? He popped it back into place and kept running. This happened at mile 14 of the race. He had 85 miles to go. His shoulder continued to hurt him, so at mile 42 of the race, they taped his arm to his body. And then after 58 more miles, he finished the race and won. This run, however, would end up to be his slowest time at Hard Rock 100 in a time of 24 hours and 32 minutes. But he still won the whole thing after falling off a cliff and dislocating his shoulder. That is just insane. Number 7, Grand Raid de la Réunion. When Kilian first raced this race in 2010, they had just changed the course to be the longest course yet at 101 miles. He won the race by 1 hour and 20 minutes and was the first ever non-French athlete to win this race. And this race had been going on since 1989, so that's pretty insane. This race is one of the most difficult 100-mile races in the world. It has some of the most technical trails and is hot during the day and freezing at night. And almost all runners will run through 2 full nights. So all of that said, Kilian was almost guaranteed to win. He finished in a time of 23 hours and 17 minutes and set the new course record. He then returned 2 years later in 2012, which was a very difficult edition of the race. It was raining for almost the entire race, and by the end, almost 50% of the 2,700 athletes had dropped out. There was also 1 death in the 2012 edition of the race when a runner slipped and fell into a 100-foot ravine. However, Kilian still managed to finish the race in a time of 26 hours and 33 minutes. Number 6, Marathon du Mont Blanc. This race is one of the most competitive sub-ultra trail races in the world. The Marathon du Mont Blanc is around 26 miles long, has 8,200 feet of elevation gain, and the race route changes almost every year because some of the race is held on private property and they get permission for it some years and not other years. Kilian first ran this race in 2012 and won, then 2013 raced there again, won again, then in 2014 won again, 2017 won again, and then 2018 won again. Kilian holds the record for the most overall wins at this race. And some people say that Kilian still holds the course record, but like I said, it changes almost every year, so it's hard to keep track. At the Mont Blanc Marathon, they also have a vertical kilometer race, which is 2 days before the marathon, which Kilian has won twice. And of course, the vertical kilometer races he won were the same years that he won the overall marathon 2 days later. So he would run and win the vertical kilometer race on a Friday, then on Sunday run a marathon in the mountains and win that. But yeah guys, that wraps up the 10th through the 5th of Kilian's best races. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss Kilian's top 5 races that will come out next week. But yeah, what did you guys think? Did I get the order right so far? What races do you think will be in Kilian's top 5? Let me know in the comments below. But yeah guys, thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to smash that like button because 1 like equals 1 more race that Kilian will win. Bye.